After 7 years with Derek Lawson, he said he was tired of me and turned to a younger, more delicate girl. This time I didn't make a fuss. I threw away the ring and cut up the newly bought wedding dress. In the dead of night, I boarded a plane and left the capital. His friends began betting on how long it would take before I begged him to take me back. Derek coldly laughed. In less than 3 days she'll be crying and coming back to beg me. But 3 days came and went, and I remained out of touch. Derek, unable to sit still any longer, made the first move and called me. Naomi Watts, if you're done with your tantrum, come back. On the other end of the line, a man's low laugh was heard. Mr. Lawson, you can't win back a girl overnight. Otherwise, someone else might snatch her away. Derek, with bloodshot eyes and gritted teeth, snapped. Get Naomi on the phone. Logan Ramsey leaned down and kissed me. She can't answer, she's still unconscious. I need to wake her up first. 7 years with Derek. I secretly bought a wedding dress and gathered the courage to propose to him. But unfortunately, I arrived a few minutes late to the party, just in time to hear him talking to his friends. You know Naomi? I'm sick of her. Derek lit a cigarette, smiling lazily. 7 years, wouldn't you be bored? The others laughed along. True, even if she's a goddess, 7 years of the same thing would lose its taste. Although Naomi is really beautiful. Her figure is perfect. At Derek's birthday party last time, she wore a stepmother dress, and all the men there couldn't take their eyes off her. Honestly, Derek, you used to cherish her so much. Can you really let her go now? Derek's voice was indifferent. When have I ever lied? So, if I pursued Naomi, you wouldn't mind? Go ahead. Derek casually blew a smoke ring. As long as you don't disgust her. Shameless, you don't feel embarrassed? Derek's old news, and you're taking over. Another round of laughter followed. That night, I didn't go into the private room. I made up an excuse about a headache and left for home. Derek didn't ask a single word more and just hung up the phone. It was probably that night that I made up my mind to break up for good. A couple of days later, the rumor mill went wild. Derek was said to be pursuing a second-year student from the Performing Arts Academy, young, tender, and naive. He was making quite a spectacle of it. Just like when he pursued me, he wanted to announce it to the world, throwing houses, cars, and jewelry around. The young girl hadn't seen such a show and was quickly won over. At a gathering organized by friends, Derek brought her along. As soon as he entered, everyone went silent. Several girls who were quite close to me looked at me with concern. I smiled and said, "Why is everyone so quiet? What are you staring at me for?" Derek sat down with the girl and finally looked at me properly. "Naomi, today is a good opportunity, so I'll just say it straight. Go ahead. All these years of breaking up and getting back together have been quite meaningless, and feelings have long faded." I clenched my hands tightly, the ring on my middle finger digging into my flesh, but I felt no pain. Amelia is young and innocent. I really like her and don't want to make her suffer. Derek touched the girl's hair. I need to give her a proper title. I nodded slightly. I understand. We'll still be friends. If you have any problems, you can come to me. As long as you're in the capital, I'll still take care of your matters. I'd rather not. I lightly smiled, stood up and said, since we're breaking up, let's make it clear to avoid any misunderstanding for the girl. Derek raised his eyebrows in surprise, then said after a moment, right. Then you all enjoy yourselves. I'll head out first. Shall I have the driver take you? No need. I'll just take a cab. As I walked out of the room and closed the door, I heard someone ask, how long do you think Naomi will hold out this time? 2 days. This time she really seems a bit angry, so I bet a week. Derek glanced at the door that hadn't closed completely and coldly smiled. In less than 3 days, she'll be crying and coming back. It's always been like this over the years. I'm really tired of it. Yes, who doesn't know that Naomi can't live without you and loves you madly? I gave a self-deprecating smile, tightly clutching my purse, and hurried towards the elevator. Back at my apartment, I went to the corner of the dressing room to take down that wedding dress. I had waited 6 months to get it, but sadly I would never have the chance to wear it. It was custom-made and non-returnable. So I grabbed a pair of scissors and cut it up. After all, leaving it here was just an eyesore for Derek. When I left, I took off the ring and placed it on the coffee table. I didn't take much with me. Other than personal items, I didn't need anything else. I thought for a moment and left Derek a note, saying that he could deal with the house and everything in it as he pleased, without asking me. I booked a flight for the early morning and flew to Port City. My best friend had married there last year, so I planned to visit her and take a break. My best friend invited me for shopping and afternoon tea. In the evening, there was a small gathering with old classmates and friends. After a few rounds of drinks, someone pushed the door open. A few female classmates' eyes lit up immediately. "Logan? You're quite a rare guest." "Yeah, big guy, what brings you here tonight?" "Just happened to be in the neighborhood for some business, heard about the old friends gathering, so I came by to join the fun," Logan said, his gaze fixing momentarily on a spot before slowly moving away. My best friend quietly nudged me. "Naomi, I think Logan is interested in you." I looked at the man with hazy, drunken eyes. He was a bit taller than Derek, wearing a black coat with a matching business suit underneath. He was very handsome, well-built, and had incredibly long legs. I squinted at him for a moment before shaking my head. "I don't think so. We haven't been in touch all these years." My best friend ignored me and directly called out to Logan. "Mr. Ramsey, could you please give Naomi a ride later? We're all drinking, and I'm not comfortable with her taking a rideshare." I looked up at Logan, stunned. Logan's gaze also crossed over the crowd and landed on my face. After about 2 seconds, I saw him nod. "Okay. Thanks a lot, big guy." My best friend smiled and leaned close to my ear, saying, "Naomi, sleeping with the same man for 7 years isn't worth it. If Derek can be fickle, why can't you start a new chapter? Besides, with someone as great as Logan, why not? How do you know he'll sleep with me? Just look at the way he's looking at you. He's practically undressing you with his eyes. Trust me, I've had 18 relationships. I have more experience than you." 4. Logan drove me back to the hotel. When we reached the hotel entrance, I unbuckled my seatbelt and thanked him. "Thank you for bringing me back tonight." Logan turned to me and said, "No problem." As I was about to open the car door and get out, I suddenly remembered what Derek had said. Without thinking, I asked, "Would you like to come up for a cup of tea?" Logan kissed me in the elevator. I was already drunk, and his assertive, forceful kiss almost made me lose my breath. "There are cameras." I panted, my cheeks flushed, and my legs felt so weak that I had to hold onto his waist tightly. Logan glanced at the camera, turned around, changed the angle, and kissed me again. When we reached my room and I unlocked the door, he suddenly stopped me. "Naomi, if you regret it now, I can still stop." "Regret what?" I looked up at him, my fingers twisting around his tie, pulling him closer. "You've already swollen my lips. Now you want to stop?" Logan suddenly smiled, his fingers brushing over my slightly swollen lips. "Even if you regret it later, it won't matter." For our first time, Logan didn't even wait to get to the bedroom. The wall pressed against my back was somewhat painful, and I couldn't help but bite him and whimper. "Logan, are you a beast? Don't you understand how to cherish a woman?" His scorching palm pressed against my back, and he was relentless. Finally, panting, he kissed my neck and said, "Naomi, I'm having a hard time holding back." 5 minutes later, I understood what he meant. Logan carried me to the bedroom, and I buried my face in the pillow, laughing. "Logan, how long has it been since you had a woman?" Logan glanced at me with a serious expression. "Quite a while. I've been busy with work all these years." I looked at him in surprise, and my laughter slowly stopped. After a moment, tears suddenly began to flow. "I'm sorry, Logan, I've made a mess of things." "Naomi, don't say that." Maybe because I was crying, Logan seemed flustered. He hurriedly wiped my tears, but they just wouldn't stop. "I shouldn't have provoked you." "But you already did." Logan leaned in, holding my face and looking at me with a serious expression. "Naomi, if you've started this, you have to see it through." 6. On the 7th day in Hong Kong, Oscar from the capital suddenly sent me a WeChat message. "Naomi, when are you coming back to Beijing? I don't plan to return for now. Everyone misses you. Dean's birthday is in a couple of days. Come back for the party." "No thanks. Please let him know I'll send a gift." "All right then, take care of yourself." In the private room, Oscar handed his phone to Derek. "Derek, why don't you give Naomi a call? She'll definitely listen to you." Derek coldly looked at the lines of text on the screen, then abruptly stubbed out his cigarette and stood up. "If she doesn't want to come back, Let her stay out there. Derek, don't be angry. Naomi must be feeling down. Yeah, she's taken off the ring, so she must be really hurt. It's also because you and that girl made things too difficult. We've already broken up. What more does she want? Derek suddenly got angry. Listen up. No one is allowed to contact her again, even if she's dead. All right, no one will contact her. Just stop losing your temper. You just had a stomach bleed from drinking the other day. It was only when Naomi was around that I didn't have stomach problems. Now that she's gone, look at how you're making yourself sick. Every time a friend spoke, Derek's expression darkened. In the end, he grabbed his coat and slammed the door as he left. As he walked downstairs, the cold wind hit him, but Derek still couldn't shake off the anger in his chest. Naomi had some nerve. 7 days and not a single call or message. Is she serious? Derek coldly added Naomi's number to his blacklist. She better not come crying back to beg me, because this time I will not be soft-hearted like before. 7. When Logan's call came, I had just finished typing the last line and clicked on formatting. I had started writing magazine columns during college and had some success, so I became a full-time writer after graduation. Thanks to this talent, I was doing well financially. With a flexible job, I could travel anywhere with my laptop. So after the breakup, there was no need to stay in Beijing and be heartbroken. Naomi, what do you want to eat tonight? Logan's voice came through clearly, and the afternoon's busyness seemed to vanish instantly. My brain cells are practically dead. I'm exhausted. You decide. How about hot pot? I know a place with amazing brain soup. I'm sure you'll like it. I used to love ordering brain soup when having hot pot, but later Derek said it was disgusting, so I rarely had it. However, I vaguely remembered Logan's diet was always quite bland. Logan, you don't have to accommodate me like this. I've long stopped being picky about food. I suddenly really want it too. Remember back in college, there was a place in the second cafeteria with really tender and fresh brain soup. Hearing him talk about it, I felt a craving. That place was indeed good, and I never got tired of it after 4 years of eating there. Okay then, let's have hot pot. I'll come pick you up now. All right. Logan took me to a Chongqing hot pot restaurant that had been open in Hong Kong for many years. The place was old and small, but the business was great. Logan, dressed in a suit, looked completely out of place in this environment. I watched him carefully wipe my chair with a napkin, expertly rinse the dishes with hot water, and pour me juice. For someone as refined as Logan, doing these mundane tasks didn't seem out of his depth at all. Logan, your ex-girlfriend really trained you well. I couldn't help but express my admiration. Unlike me, who spent 7 years breaking up and getting back together, I only experienced being pampered when Derek pursued me at the beginning. Later, during the year and a bit living together after college, I turned into a homemaker, learning to cook and care for his diet and daily needs. But now I realize, I loved him so much that I lost myself and forgot the importance of loving oneself first. How could I expect his love to never wane? Logan glanced at me while helping me cook the vegetables. Where did you hear that I had an ex-girlfriend? 8. I was taken aback for a moment. Wasn't there a girl always with you in college? It seemed like you grew up together. You mean Claire? Logan laughed. We did grow up together, but we were never together. I don't like her. I only see her as a sister at most. So, have you not been in a relationship over the years? Logan leisurely folded his shirt sleeves. I've been on blind dates and had brief encounters, but nothing worked out, so we parted ways. Oh. So you haven't been in a relationship since then? I lowered my gaze, thinking about how he acted that night. It seemed his words were far more credible now. Naomi, I won't do this again next time. Logan's sudden statement left me confused. What won't you do again? He turned his face slightly, clearing his throat. Perhaps it was the steaming hot pot that made his ears turn an astonishing red. You'll find out later. Logan served me the cooked brain soup. Eat up. He didn't stop until he had taken me back to the hotel. After washing up, he carried me from the bathroom back to the bed. It was then that I finally understood what he had meant earlier. But at that moment I was utterly exhausted. My hair at the temples was soaked with sweat, and even my fingertips trembled. Yet Logan showed no sign of stopping. Logan! I couldn't help but glare at him, but my eyes were misty, making me look even more vulnerable. The way I called his name seemed to carry a hint of coquettishness, far from genuine anger. Logan lowered his head and gently kissed me. "Naomi, are you comfortable?" I shook my head, unwilling to answer him. He wasn't angry. Instead, the intensity shifted from a storm to a tender, lingering softness. I was overwhelmed, and tears of physical exhaustion streamed from the corners of my eyes. "Logan." My nails scratched his lower back, and my voice carried a difficult-to-bear sobbing tone. "Naomi, tell me now, are you comfortable?" Logan's eyes were also red with restraint, his arm muscles tensed, and beads of sweat dripped from his forehead. The feeling of almost reaching the clouds but always falling just short tormented me, and I began to cry softly. "Yes, it's comfortable." His scorching hand gripped my waist with a forceful, relentless strength, shattering my voice into chaotic fragments. As my consciousness faded, Logan whispered softly in my ear, "Naomi, if you're comfortable, then promise me never leave me, okay?" 10. On Dean's birthday night, I had my friend deliver the gift I bought in Hong Kong. Derek sat on the sofa, smoking, and his drink was already more than half gone. The gift for Dean was a pair of antique cufflinks from a high-end brand that Logan and I had picked out together. "These cufflinks are quite exquisite." Dean smiled awkwardly, glancing at Derek's expression, and quickly asked his girlfriend to put it away. "Bring them here." Derek suddenly spoke. Dean was taken aback but quickly handed the box over. Derek stared at the cufflinks. The brand's logo was understated and unobtrusive, but Derek scrutinized it for a long while. "Put it away," he said, closing the box and pushing it aside. Dean let out a sigh of relief and quickly reached to take it, but Derek suddenly grabbed the empty bottle and smashed it on the coffee table. Glass shattered everywhere, and a long cut appeared on the back of his hand. The room immediately descended into chaos. "What's this about? Why did Derek suddenly lose his temper?" "He's injured badly, the bleeding won't stop. We should get him to the hospital." Derek stood there, motionless, with a dark and fierce expression. "Naomi has never bought anything from this brand." His voice was low, hoarse, and heavy. Dean hurriedly tried to explain. "It's nothing. Naomi probably just picked it out randomly. Unlike your birthday, Naomi had been thinking about what to get you for half a year in advance." "Yeah, Derek, your place in her heart is something none of us can compare to. Everyone knows how much Naomi cares about you and values you." Derek sneered. "Cares about me?" The noisy crowd grew strangely quiet. "Derek, should I call Naomi? Or should we deal with the injury first?" Dean, mustering up courage, took a photo of Derek's wounded hand with his phone and sent it directly to Naomi via WeChat. Derek didn't stop him, perhaps because Dean acted too quickly for him to react. 11. The private room suddenly fell silent. After about 10 seconds, Dean's phone rang. "See, I told you Naomi cares about you a lot. Look, Derek, it's Naomi calling," Dean said excitedly. The others noticed that Derek's previously sullen expression seemed to have softened slightly. "Derek, are you going to answer?" Dean handed the phone over, but Derek turned his face away without looking at it. Dean cheerfully said, I'll answer, haha." He put the call on speaker and Naomi's voice came through. Derek's lips tightened immediately. "Dean, what's going on? Are you hurt?" "Oh, it's not me. It's Derek's hand. You wouldn't believe how badly it's injured, and the bleeding just won't stop." Dean went on, but the other end of the line was silent. "Naomi, are you listening? Maybe you should come back. Derek refuses to go to the hospital, and the bleeding won't stop." "Dean." Naomi's voice was still as gentle and pleasant as ever. Yeah, Naomi, I'm listening," Dean responded, giving Derek a pointed look. "Don't tell me about his matters anymore." Dean's smile instantly faltered. "Naomi. And happy birthday, Dean." Naomi, hey, don't hang up, Naomi." But the sound of the call disconnecting was unmistakably clear. Dean was stunned, holding the phone as if it were a hot potato. He really wanted to slap himself unconscious, wondering why he had meddled and created such trouble. The room was eerily quiet. Derek, however, calmly looked around at everyone and smiled. "Are you all dumbstruck?" Everyone remained silent. Derek smiled again. "Why is everyone suddenly so quiet?" "Derek. Don't get angry. The bleeding's getting worse." Derek, you know Naomi's temper the best. Zoe, who had been quietly sitting in the corner, suddenly spoke up. I've wanted to say this for a long time. What you did before was very hurtful. Naomi is a girl, and girls are the most sensitive. Even if you no longer like her, you should have parted on good terms. Who says I need to part on good terms with her? Derek sneered coldly. She's been with me for 7 years. Even if I had raised a dog, it would have been well trained by now. Zoe smiled faintly. Have you ever thought about how many 7-year periods a girl has? What if Naomi never comes back? Impossible. No one noticed the barely perceptible tremor in Derek's voice. Isn't there anything in this world that's truly impossible? When the heart is hurt and cold, how hard is it to warm it again? Derek, don't do something you'll regret for the rest of your life. Zoe said and left without lingering. She grabbed her bag and walked out. Riley, sitting not far away, looked at her with unclear emotions. His wife married for 2 years. Was he feeling sympathy for Naomi, standing up for her? Or was he reminded of his own situation, blaming himself for not treating his wife better? Riley, aren't you going to see off your sister-in-law? Riley smirked and lit a cigarette. Who's your sister-in-law? Your sister-in-law is filming right now and won't be done until next month. Just do whatever you want. His friend shook his head helplessly. Riley didn't comment further. Zoe was different from Naomi. Naomi had no family burdens and could earn her own living. A breakup would only mean a slight decline in her quality of life. But Zoe had the bottomless Sue family behind her, and an older brother who was bedridden. She couldn't leave him. Even if she had 10 times the courage, she still wouldn't dare. 12. As soon as I hung up, Logan embraced me from behind. He rested his chin on my neck and rubbed against me, but he didn't say anything. I couldn't help but smile. What's wrong? Naomi, are you going to go back? Back where? Back to Beijing. I don't plan to return for now, but maybe in the future. After all, I haven't done anything shameful. Why shouldn't I be able to go back? My home is still there. Logan fell silent again. I then realized the implication of his words. Are you asking if I'll get back with Derek? Will you? I say absolutely not. Do you believe it? Logan lowered his gaze, his high nose brushing against my cheek. I want to believe it. Logan, I also have my pride and dignity. Do you still have feelings for him? I thought carefully and replied. If I said I had none at all, it wouldn't be realistic. After all, it's been so many years. Logan suddenly bit me lightly. Don't say that, Naomi. Let me finish. But to say it's reluctance or unwillingness, it's not quite that either. I gently touched Logan's face. Breaking up with him didn't cause me much pain or distress, so maybe I've long stopped loving him. Maybe, when he started being indifferent to this relationship, I was already prepared for the breakup. I won't. I won't be indifferent, won't be half-hearted, won't make you cry or be sad. Logan hugged me tighter and kissed me again. Naomi, be with me. Teen. But I didn't respond to his kiss. In the end, I gently pushed him away. Logan, I'm sorry. Why are you saying sorry? He looked down at me, his eyes slightly red. It's my own issue. I avoided his gaze. I don't want to talk about feelings anymore. Then what are we to each other these days? Logan held my shoulders, his voice trembling. Naomi, what am I to you? I clenched my fists and took a deep breath. Let's just consider it as mutual use. If you want, we can continue with this arrangement. If you meet someone you like, you can end it any time. What kind of relationship? Just a tool to meet physical needs. You can think of it that way too. I refused to look up, afraid I'd start crying. Logan, I'm very sorry. If this way of interacting makes you uncomfortable, I'll leave Hong Kong immediately. I swear I'll never bother you again. Naomi. Logan's eyes were red, and he released me, stepping back slowly. He seemed to be smiling, but it was a broken smile. Naomi, you can't treat me like this. Logan. He turned, took his coat and walked out. I instinctively took a step after him but then stopped. Logan walked to the door, and as he grasped the handle, he suddenly turned back to look at me. He even gave me a reassuring smile. Sorry, I just need some time alone for a while. I nodded. Okay, I won't disturb you. Naomi. Give me some time to respond. Logan left. I felt utterly drained and slowly sank onto the sofa. I couldn't describe the discomfort inside, but I knew clearly that I wasn't in a place to invest wholeheartedly in a new relationship. I was truly afraid that in the end we would grow to hate each other. Afraid that the look in his eyes, from passionate to indifferent and then to cold disdain, would repeat itself. I didn't want to repeat the same mistakes. I shouldn't have involved Logan. If I had known from the start that he liked me, then that night I would never have let him drive me back to the hotel. 14. It was already 3 a.m. when Logan drove back to the hotel where Naomi was staying. He got out of the car but didn't go inside. Instead, he leaned against the car and lit a cigarette. With countless windows lit, he couldn't tell which one belonged to Naomi, but he knew she was here in Hong Kong in the same city as him. He knew that if he went inside, he'd see her in 10 minutes. It felt almost joyful, satisfying. In fact, he had figured things out in less than 2 days. It was easy for him to convince himself. Naomi had just ended a relationship. It was normal for her to not want to date or get married again. It was only natural for her to feel disillusioned and resistant towards men, love, and even marriage. Perhaps he was too hasty and shouldn't have pressured her like that. If she felt that keeping this kind of relationship would make her feel relaxed and comfortable, he didn't actually mind not having a formal status. What could be more painful than loving someone and not having them? If there was something worse, it was probably a year and a half ago, when he learned Naomi and Derek had started living together. At that time, he had truly decided to let go. That was why he tried dating and meeting new people, wanting to move on. But when he found that it didn't work, he decisively ended it. Afterward, no matter how much his family urged him, he never entertained such thoughts again. If Naomi hadn't come to Hong Kong after the breakup, if she hadn't asked him to come up that night, perhaps he would have remained single for the rest of his life. Logan stubbed out his cigarette, his gaze gradually becoming calm and resolute. But Naomi had come to Hong Kong, and she had asked him that night. If the girl he loved came to him and he still lost her, then Logan, you don't deserve the happiness you want. 15. The night before leaving Hong Kong, I met up with my best friend for drinks. How is it going with Logan? My friend looked me up and down. Tisk tsk. Seeing your glowing complexion and how your skin is so dewy, it's clear Logan has been treating you well. I don't want to be a burden to him. I don't want to date or get married. Naomi, why punish yourself for someone else's mistakes? Moreover, it's not fair to Logan either. People say the former plants the tree, and the latter enjoys the shade, and I agree with that. But there's no reason for the ex's wrongs to affect the current one. Derek might not be a good person, but Logan is a worthy man. Why do you hold a grudge against Logan because of Derek? I'm not prejudiced against him. I just haven't gotten over this hurdle myself. You haven't gotten over the hurdle. You've been emotionally manipulated by Derek for 7 years, making you feel unworthy of true love and happiness. I was stunned by her words. Was that the case? Because of the pain and entanglement from the constant ups and downs, and extreme insecurity making me overly cautious, I subconsciously doubted everyone in the world. I believed I wouldn't receive wholehearted love. But why can't I have genuine love? Those who betray true hearts should be punished 1,000 times. But those who have loved sincerely will be given a new opportunity by fate. Sweetie, do you know how wonderful you are? My friend hugged me and gently shook me. You're so beautiful with such a great figure. You could support yourself during college and even support me. You're beautiful, capable, and kind. If I were a man, I'd marry you no matter what. You deserve to be loved, Naomi, to be cherished by the best man, and not wasted on someone like Derek. Believe me, sweetheart, he will regret this. For the rest of his life, he won't be able to get over losing you. Now call Logan immediately. And cancel your flight. Don't think I don't know you're trying to run away. I looked at my friend, my eyes gradually filling with warmth. But Ivy, do you think Logan and I will end up like this? No. Why? Because I believe a man with enough self-discipline and a principle of not settling for less will never foolishly lose the girl he loves. Do you think he's like Derek, that pig? I shook my head. He was certainly not like Derek. So call him now, sweetheart. You can't imagine how happy he will be. 16. I knew Logan would be happy, but I didn't expect that a man in his late 20s, the president of a successful family business, would be as joyful as a child upon receiving my call. My friend looked at me with a smile. Naomi, are you happy? I nodded. It seems he's very happy. You see, you're happy, Logan's happier, so that's settled then? My friend laughed. Just thinking about how unhappy Derek will be in the future makes me giddy. Maybe he might already have someone new. I smiled faintly. Ivy, let's not mention him anymore. At that moment, I could speak so calmly and effortlessly. It felt like that person really had nothing to do with me anymore. When Logan's car arrived downstairs, I had just walked out of the bar. He stood in the night breeze, arms open to me. I paused and looked at him. He really was good-looking. Everything about him fit my aesthetic perfectly. Men can like numerous women at once, and it's not unusual for them to juggle multiple relationships without breaking up. So, dating again after a breakup is also not wrong. I walked towards him and he also walked towards me. Amidst the crowd, Logan and I kissed as if no one else existed. His heart was beating so fast. I felt his neck warm to the touch. Logan, are you running a fever? His forehead pressed against mine, breathing heavily, his voice low. Naomi, I don't know what's happening to me. When I'm with you, it's like this. I laughed lightly and stood on my tiptoes to kiss his chin. Maybe, if we do it more often, it'll be fine? Logan's ears turned even redder. He cupped my face, his gaze burning. Naomi, what am I now? I teased him deliberately. What do you think? Just a friend or a boyfriend? He asked but didn't wait for my answer before burying his face in my neck and whispering, Forget it, don't answer. I don't want to know right now. My hands gently encircled his waist, pulling him closer. Really don't want to know? Boyfriend. 17. Derek's car stopped at the entrance of an alley. He got out and walked deep into the alley on foot. An old tailor lived there, whose ancestors had worked as weavers in Jiangnan. Now in his old age, he had long since closed his doors to visitors. But Derek had ways to persuade the old man. The wedding dress Naomi had torn was sent to the master tailor half a month ago. Today it was almost repaired and finished. As he walked, Derek thought about what Dean had said a few days ago. Girls always long to wear a wedding dress and marry the one they love. He and Naomi had been together for 7 years, but he had never thought of proposing. He hadn't even imagined that Naomi might have considered proposing to him. He had indeed acted recklessly these days. But those women were just fleeting distractions. He never took them seriously. Even Amelia, who caused Naomi to break up and leave, only intrigued him for 3 days. After that, he found her uninteresting, always thinking about Naomi. After 7 years together, he had felt fatigued and jaded at times. But some people are like invisible air. You only realize their importance when they're gone. During these days without Naomi, he couldn't muster any enthusiasm for anything. Even when hanging out with friends, he was consumed with thoughts of her. Especially when he drank too much. If Naomi were there, she would have pretended to be angry and stopped him. If she couldn't stop him, she'd make soup late at night, let him rest his head on her lap, and massage his temples. Her fingers were soft, and her tiny complaints and affectionate murmurs used to annoy him. Now he missed them dearly. Derek thought that when Naomi returned, he would propose to her. He had known for a long time how much Naomi wanted to marry him. If he gave her marriage, she would be reassured and forgive him. 18. The old master's skills were indeed excellent. The wedding dress had been repaired to almost the same condition as before. Derek paid for the work, and as he was leaving, his phone suddenly rang. He felt inexplicably nervous until he saw Dean's name flashing on the screen. His pounding heart slowly began to calm. Derek, there's something I need to tell you. What is it? Don't get upset, but this might be just gossip. It's not certain. What's going on? It's about Naomi. Or maybe it's just rumors. Dean, when did you become so hesitant? What's going on with Naomi? Is she back in Beijing? Derek. Dean suddenly felt a deep discomfort, wondering how things had come to this. Naomi could have been rumored with anyone, but it had to be Logan. Derek had always had the worst relationship with him. Especially 2 years ago, when Derek's company and Logan's Chongqing Enterprises were locked in a fierce battle over a major project. In the end, Logan slightly edged out and won the project, while Derek returned defeated. That was the first time he tasted the bitterness of failure. As a result, their already tense relationship became even more hostile. I've said it, don't get angry. This is just hearsay with no solid proof. It's just that someone saw Naomi in Hong Kong. Derek's fingers tightened around the phone, but his voice remained controlled and calm. What's she doing in Hong Kong? She seems to be with Logan. Of course, it could just be a meal or something, nothing else. I understand. Derek. If there's nothing else, I'm hanging up. Derek ended the call. He carried the large paper bag containing Naomi's wedding dress and walked step by step in the early winter cold of Beijing. He walked all the way to the alley entrance by the car. Derek suddenly stopped, a faint, mocking smile slowly appearing on his handsome face. The next moment, he unhesitatingly threw the exquisite paper bag into the trash can. 19. In the second month after Naomi left, Derek sent her a WeChat message. The message was successfully sent but fell into a void. The message read, "I'm planning to sell the apartment. What should I do with your clothes?" Maybe he forgot Naomi had left him a note to deal with everything as he wished. Maybe he did it intentionally, finding a reason to send her a message. Derek might have thought of it as a way to give Naomi an opportunity to ease the situation. If she were smart, she'd know to take the hint. His temper seemed bad, but in reality, he was easy to appease. Naomi never replied. The apartment naturally wasn't sold. Naomi's clothes and all her belongings remained as they were. It was as if she had never left. Derek always came here in the middle of the night after social events. Then he would lie on Naomi's bed, sleepless until dawn. In the third month after Naomi left, still in the unchanged late-night hours, when the clock was about to strike 12, Derek dialed Naomi's number. 20. Naomi is a very conservative and well-behaved girl. Although her family is modest, they are not lacking in necessities, and her parents dote on her greatly. But because she was beautiful from a young age, her elders were very strict with her. It wasn't until the autumn of her university graduation year that Naomi began living with him. He still remembered that night. She was so nervous that her entire body was shaking. Every inch of her skin was flushed with a hot rosy red. She was stunningly beautiful, and beneath him, she seemed so delicate and heart-wrenching that it was almost unbearable. When it was all over, she cried intensely, repeatedly telling him, "Derek, you mustn't bully me. You mustn't bully me in the future. You have to be good to me, you have to marry me. Derek, we'll be together forever, right?" But the naive and pure Naomi, who once thought she'd be with the man she loved forever, had long been lost to him. So long that he couldn't even remember what her expression was when they last broke up. Did she nod with a smile, or did tears well up in her eyes? The phone rang for a long time, and just as he thought she wouldn't answer, the call was finally picked up. At that moment, he actually wanted to say, "Naomi, come back." But when he opened his mouth, what came out was, "Naomi, if you've had enough of this, come back." His foolish and laughable words were interrupted by a man's light laugh. That laugh felt like a block of hard, cold ice hitting him, and Derek felt as though his whole body was encased in ice, unable to move. "Mr. Lawson, you can't woo a girl with outdated methods. Otherwise, someone might swoop in halfway." "Logan." Derek's eyes turned red as he gritted his teeth while saying the name. "It's me, Logan. Where is Naomi? Let her pick up the phone." Derek's eyes seemed to be filled with blood, red and terrifying. He gripped the phone tightly, his voice trembling. "Logan, if you dare take advantage of this situation." "She can't answer." Logan lowered his head and gently kissed his girl. A tear was still hanging on Naomi's lashes, her mouth pouting, her eyes closed but her face showing all her grievances. Logan's heart softened uncontrollably, and he kissed her lashes to catch that tear. "She's still faint, she's upset with me. I have to wake her up with kisses." "Logan." Derek's voice abruptly stopped. Logan ended the call and turned off the phone. His kiss landed on Naomi's slightly swollen lips. "Baby, wake up." 21. I had imagined how it would be to see Derek again. He came from a wealthy family and was inherently proud. Our breakup had been amicable, so if we ever crossed paths, He might either ignore me or we might exchange polite greetings. After all, my family is in Beijing, and Derek and I have some mutual friends. It would be impossible to avoid all interaction forever. But I never expected that such a high and mighty young man would have such a disheveled and unkempt moment. At that time, feeling particularly good after a restful sleep, I was wearing a newly bought nude pink cashmere dress and had done my makeup beautifully. I felt like a ripe and sweet peach. I was walking out of the revolving door, arm in arm with Logan, chatting and laughing. And then I saw Derek getting out of the car. I froze for a moment, my steps halting. Logan's warm fingers gently held mine. Derek's shirt was a bit wrinkled, and he wasn't wearing a tie. He had an unmistakable look of fatigue on his face, his brows furrowed, with red veins under his eyes. People were bustling around us, and a cheerful music fountain played nearby. The scene felt like a slow-motion shot from a movie. Only I wasn't a spectator but an unprepared protagonist. Perhaps Derek's appearance was so unexpected. Logan instinctively shielded me behind him. But Derek's expression was very calm. He called my name as gently as he had when we were in love. Naomi. I stood still. The music continued its cheerful tune. But for some reason I felt a deep, indescribable sadness. Maybe it was for Naomi, who had heard those painful words that night. Maybe it was for Naomi, who had been abruptly notified of the breakup. Or maybe it was for Naomi, who had loved foolishly for 7 years but managed to let go in just 7 days. Naomi, I'm here to take you back to Beijing. Derek had not looked at Logan throughout. His gaze was focused on my face, incredibly tender. I couldn't even remember the last time he had looked at me like that before we broke up. Derek stopped about a meter in front of me. Naomi, let's get married when we go back. We'll live well together, okay? He spoke with such seriousness that I almost believed. That Derek, who had recently said he wanted to give another girl a name, was just a figment of my imagination. But it was too late, Derek. The shattered heart cannot be pieced together. And the new heart that grew from the mire is already devoted to someone else. 22. I shook my head gently. Derek, go away. Naomi, I never touched Amelia. I broke up with her in less than 3 days. I've had the wedding dress you bought repaired by the tailor. And our wedding rings, I've kept them safe. Naomi, I even customized an engagement ring. I'm serious. Derek's eyes were becoming redder, his voice trembling slightly. He held out the exquisite ring box, presenting it to me like a treasure. The longing and hope in his eyes were extremely cautious. Looking at him like this, I couldn't deny that I still felt a pang of hurt. But it was only that, a pang of hurt. Derek, I already have a boyfriend. I tightly held Logan's hand, stepping beside him and standing shoulder to shoulder. The color drained from Derek's face instantly. His gaze slowly fell to our joined hands. On our ring fingers were matching wedding bands, just like the ones I used to wear with him. Naomi, are you serious? I took a deep breath, glanced at Logan and then nodded firmly. Yes, serious. Derek suddenly let out a low laugh. You think he's serious about you? You think he has much sincerity? 2 years ago, he fought me fiercely over a project. Now he's pursuing you. Naomi, do you think there's no selfish motive in this? Does he dare to say honestly that his pursuit of you has nothing to do with competing with me, Derek? Naomi, you're still so naive. The world is as dark as a raven, and so are men. You've been with me for 7 years. After everything we went through, do you think Logan won't mind at all? Do you think he'll really end up with you, growing old together? Aren't you afraid that being with him will just be another 7 years like with me? 23. The cheerful music had stopped, I don't know when. Derek's voice had also ceased. First, there was a silence in my ears. Then a faint sound of something gently breaking. And after that sound, there was an incredible sense of relief and release. You see, I even lost the last bit of sadness. It's just a pity. Why does living always come with regrets? Until today, I had never regretted loving Derek. Regardless of the good or bad, it was part of my experience. But at this moment, I couldn't help but regret. Why hadn't I realized over the past 7 years that Derek, deep down, had never really valued me? Logan, with eyes full of compassion, pulled me into his embrace. My face was a bit pale, but I still smiled and shook my head at him. I'm fine, Logan. Be good, go to the car. I'll handle this. I want to be with you, I said, gripping his hand, unwilling to let go. Logan looked at me steadily for a moment and suddenly leaned down to kiss me firmly. Naomi, when it comes to doing things, Logan, have always acted with a clear conscience and never regretted it. But at this moment, I truly regret not having taken you away from him back then. What right do you have to compete with me? What kind of man are you, Logan, to take advantage of someone in need? Derek, you don't deserve Naomi's love and affection for these 7 years. Perhaps these words thoroughly enraged Derek. He had never lost his composure like this before, and his words were unfiltered. And you, Logan, what face do you have to stand here in front of me and speak so grandly, having taken a woman who's been with me for 7 years? What do you even like about her? Do you like Naomi herself? Or do you like Derek's woman, Naomi? 24. Logan delivered a heavy punch to Derek's face. And Derek, not one to be easily defeated, soon started exchanging blows with Logan. The two fought back and forth, and quickly both had bruises and cuts. Security rushed over and managed to separate them. The two men continued to glare at each other fiercely, unwilling to back down. Can we stop this? I was both angry and anxious, my voice tinged with tears. Derek's face was ashen. Naomi, you saw it, Logan struck first. This matter isn't over with him. Yes, he struck first. Mr. Fu, I'll make him apologize to you. How you wish to resolve this afterward, we will cooperate. Naomi. He was clearly disrespectful first. Logan quickly defended himself. I pressed down on Logan's hand and spoke calmly. Mr. Fu, let me first apologize on behalf of Liangzhou. Naomi, are you really protecting him like this? Derek took a slow step forward. He struck me first, Naomi. So what do you want to do? Naomi, I'm hurt. Derek pointed to his face. Do you see the injuries here? It really hurts. I glanced and replied calmly. Then I'll call an ambulance and we'll cover all the costs. Naomi, you know that's not what I want. Derek tried to reach for me, but I stepped aside. Naomi. Derek's face lost all pretense, and his expression turned to one of sorrow. But deep in my heart, I truly felt no more waves. Logan suddenly winced in pain. Naomi, do you think I'm going to be disfigured? I turned around quickly, seeing his broken lip, swollen eye, and blood on his chin, which looked quite alarming. I took a tissue and began to help him clean up. It hurts. Naomi, be gentle, be gentle. Logan exaggeratedly grimaced. Serves you right, I said softly, but my movements became more tender. You need to go to the hospital for stitches. Then you need to come with me. I'm afraid of needles. I couldn't help but glare at him but nodded. Logan then hugged me tightly. I need you to kiss me here, it hurts so much. I slowly stood on tiptoe and placed a gentle kiss on his injury. 25. Derek did not speak again. The setting sun quietly elongated his shadow. Perhaps it was at the moment Naomi was cleaning the blood off Logan's face. Perhaps it was when Naomi was soothing Logan with kisses. It was then that he finally realized that Naomi truly no longer loved him. Zoe's question from that day had indeed become a reality. Naomi would not return to him. He thought he was the one who could easily let go of 7 years of feelings. He thought he was the one in control of this relationship. He thought he was always certain of victory. But at this moment he understood. The one unable to let go was Derek. Naomi was the string holding the kite. When the string broke, the kite lost its direction and could no longer find its way home. 26. I watched Derek turn and walk toward the car, watching his lonely figure disappear. The sun at dusk was suddenly swallowed by the horizon. The sky turned a pale rose blue. Derek's car gradually faded into the distance, and I seemed to see the 7 years from 17 to 24 that Naomi had lived. As that car sped away, it left no trace. I knew that from this day on Derek's name would be like any other ordinary name in the world. I wouldn't deliberately forget it, but I would also never think of it voluntarily. Naomi. Logan gently held me in his arms. I turned my head, looked up at him and smiled softly. Let's go, we're going to the hospital. 27. On the night Logan proposed, he drank a lot and said many things while holding me. But what I remember seemed to be just those simplest 2 sentences. Naomi, we will never have such a 7 years. Naomi, we will never break up. At the moment of making a vow, everyone truly believes it to be so. But later, when breaking the vow, one might doubt if anyone could ever believe such things. But I was willing to believe in Logan. In reality, I was believing in myself, believing that I deserved to be loved, and that true feelings would eventually not be in vain. On the day Logan and I got engaged, I received a gift sent from Beijing. It was the wedding dress I had bought before, repaired by a craftsman Derek had found. There was also a card in the box, with Derek's handwriting. He wrote, "Naomi, I will always wait for you." Logan saw the card too. He smiled confidently and gave me a firm kiss on the face. Too bad I won't give him the chance. But that night, the wedding dress disappeared without a trace. And I, long accustomed to such trivial matters, no longer minded. 28. In the 3rd year of my marriage to Logan, we had our daughter, Sienna. Not long after she was born, Derek sent many valuable gifts. I asked Logan for his opinion. He remained confident but was not very gracious. "Our daughter doesn't need these. Let's donate them to the orphanage." Tisk, look at him, so old and still not married, always focusing on other people's wives and children, seeking misery. I couldn't help but smile. Why care about others' affairs? Logan somehow became very happy. In front of a room full of servants and nannies, he picked me up and twirled me around. "Naomi, what you just said was really nice. Can you say it again?" "What did I say?" "Oh, let me down first, I'm getting dizzy." Logan didn't let go and sat down, holding me in his arms, kissing me repeatedly. "It's the line you just said, why care about others' affairs?" I found it amusing but also felt an indescribable ache. My best friend had once secretly told me that during the 2 years after I graduated from university, Logan was in the worst state. But after we were together, he never mentioned it. He never showed a hint of negativity in front of me. Why care about others' affairs? It's most important that we live our own lives well. As he finished speaking, he raised his hand to loop it around his neck. I kissed his slightly reddened ear and whispered, "Dear, our daughter is 2 months old. Let's go to bed early tonight." 27. Derek's side story. When Naomi's daughter was 3 years old, the family of 3 visited Beijing for a few months. I have many mutual friends with her, and they gathered almost every day. Of course, I never attended. But after each gathering, I couldn't help but ask about her. They said Naomi had gone to Paris for 2 years after getting married. During those years, Logan tirelessly traveled between Hong Kong and Paris, never complaining. Later, Naomi returned to Hong Kong and started her own magazine, also serving as the editor-in-chief. Logan supported all her decisions and choices unconditionally. The only dissatisfaction was her frequent overtime. She could have lived as a pampered wife, but she did not. She grew more beautiful, but it was more than just beauty. Her relationship with Logan improved over time. Their daughter was extraordinarily beautiful, resembling Naomi when she was young. In fact, she never knew that I still kept a photo of her from when she was 5 in my wallet. Beijing is so vast, yet the circle is so small. But Naomi and I never crossed paths. One afternoon, I happened to see their daughter Sienna in a buffet restaurant. She was hiding behind a rockery, secretly eating an ice cream. Like a cute little squirrel, her cheeks were puffed up with the ice cream. I stopped uncontrollably, watching her, reluctant to look away. Soon I heard Naomi calling her name. She heard it too, and her eyes widened in fear, clutching the ice cream box, not knowing what to do. I, driven by some strange impulse, walked over, squatted down, and gently asked her, "Are you afraid that your mom will find out you're sneaking ice cream?" She nodded, her big eyes rolling around. "Very clever. Would you like Uncle to help you hide?" She hesitated a bit, looking at me for a while. As if ensuring I was not a bad person, she nodded again. I picked her up. She was so small, soft, and fragrant, just snuggling into my arms. Her little hand played with the buttons on my suit, and she suddenly asked in a babyish voice, "Uncle, do you know me?" My throat seemed to be blocked by something, a rough, bitter sensation. And everything in front of me gradually became blurry. If time could go back to that year, that night, I would never let it all happen. Naomi would be my wife. We would marry in Beijing and have children. She wouldn't be named Sienna. She would be our daughter. I raised my face, swallowed the tears, and looked down at her with a smile. "Yes, Uncle knows you. Do you know my name?" She hugged me with her soft little hands. I'll tell you secretly, my name is Sienna. It's because Daddy Logan and Mommy Naomi kissed that they had me. Is that so? Well, that's a really nice name. I kissed her soft little face. All right, we can't hide too long or Mommy will worry. She obediently nodded. Then I'll have one more bite of ice cream, just one bite. She took a big bite and grinned at me like a mischievous kitten. I patted her head. Go find Mommy now. I watched her walk away. Her princess dress looked like a blooming flower, blooming far away in Naomi's embrace. I didn't look at Naomi a second time. I was afraid I would foolishly shed tears in the bustling hall. Naomi wouldn't care about anything related to me, but Logan would surely think I was ridiculous. Yes, my first half of life was so absurd, so laughable. And the remaining half was even more of a fantasy.